Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Now. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. So very happy to be with you today. For those of you who gathered with me last month, we started talking about transitions, the transitions that occur in our lives, no matter who we are. Change is inevitable. Transition is part of the life that we live. And, we kind of looked at how do we manage this? And so we thought we would take this a step further intentionally and talk about stepping into change. What happens when you actually make the decision to step into it? You know it's coming, you know it's happening, but rather than being paralyzed by fear, rather than pulling the covers over your head, rather than anesthetizing yourself, whatever the things are that people do, instead of just accepting where they are and really taking a step to walk into it and figure it out and fully live your life, we thought it would be important for us to explore this a little deeper. And I decided to ask a wonderful woman and friend and expert on the mind, body, spirit to help lead this conversation and exploration. And she very graciously agreed to be with us today. She is Dr. Janet Taylor. She is a psychiatrist. She's worked with many people through change, through trauma, through COVID, and all the other things that we have been experiencing in our lives. And so I'd love to welcome Dr. Janet Taylor right now.
Hello, Harriet.
Hi, Dr. Janet. Thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
As I mentioned, people like it doesn't matter what the time is, Dr. Janet, we're always going through stuff, right? But it feels like, and as I talk to people, it feels bigger somehow now. I think, we are out and about more than we've been for 2.5 years. For a lot of people, it's a re-entry into life, and so there's possibility when you're at a re-entry point. Some people are kind of stumbling along. Others, like I said, don't want to change, but it doesn't matter if you want to or not. Um, what are you seeing today with your patients, with what's going on in the world in terms of how people are facing change?
Well, you touched on it earlier, and what I'm seeing are a couple of things. Number one is we are coming through this disruption
Mm.
with COVID, disruption with our lives, and this continued. I hopefully it's a reckoning, but just dealing with social injustice, racial injustice, and so for many people, it creates a layer of fear, a layer of mistrust, and this thought that you can stay in bed with the covers over your head, and you can do that, but all around you things are happening. And for me, one of the things I like to do is point to nature. Certainly I live in Florida now where the leaves aren't turning the way I'd like them to, but things do change and things evolve. And that is how we are. We're human. So knowing that we are adaptable, and again, if you just focus on the cycles, at the natural cycles, it can give you some relief. But the point is, things do change. You can't stay rooted, and why would you? There's so much growth that happens during transition. So no matter what you are feeling inside, certainly notice it. And that's what mindfulness is recognizing how you're feeling, what your body's telling you, and then you have the option to flip it. But notice how you're feeling, look at how you have dealt with transition and change in the past, and then take this opportunity to do something different, to look at the world as abundant, not just for wealth, but for possibility. And change and transition really are about new possibilities, and you taking what you learned from the past with you and leaving those things that don't serve you behind.
Now, you mentioned what sounds like introspection, that you need to sit back and look and evaluate. First, notice and then evaluate what you have done, what you have experienced, whether it's worked or not. So, Dr. Janet, there are a whole lot of people who don't do that. I mean, I don't have time to do that, or that's too uncomfortable,
Yeah.
or I
Well,
mean, but I don't have time to do it is a big one. Can you speak to that?
well, you have to. I mean, this is all about you yourself. No one is coming to rescue you. And so the vision that you have, a sense of purpose, which is really critical during a time of transition, has to come from you. It's not outside of you. So if you're saying you don't have the time, I'm saying you're in denial. If you're saying you don't
Mm.
have the capacity, you're in denial. You have it. You can do it. It doesn't take long, 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, while you're doing your ordinary chores or distracting yourself on social media. Put all of that down, take some time, breathe, think about where you want to be, and make it happen. But we have to face our own reality because it's there anyway. So this is a time to literally step out of the shadows, step from behind the curtain, evolve, bloom, grow, and go for what you want. And that's it's now or never.
Okay, I'm going to keep pushing on this because I can feel the push. I feel people who are engaged with us right now having, stuff stirring around this, Dr. Janet, because if things come up, that are uncomfortable, like let's say in my contemplation, I see something that I have done or thought or said, or, something from the past that I don't feel good about, that I was responsible for. Well, I don't really want to take responsibility for that. I mean, I'm speaking
Yeah.
representing other folk, but I think it's true. If it feels too painful,
Mhm.
then often people don't understand how to have the capacity to face it and to examine it and to figure out a way through it.
So we all have that capacity. Number one, when we focus on something and make that determination, we can do that. But just because something is painful doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done. Rumi says the wound is where the light enters. A lot of times we learn the most from those times that have caused us some pain, some psychological pain, hopefully not physical pain, but psychological pain, because it jolts you into saying, this is working or not working for me. And what I like to do is think about people like Angela Davis, who in the early 1970s, while she was in jail, wrote a 10-page basically manifesto about Black women in the community of slaves. No research, no opportunity, but pen and paper, and she did that. You think about Fannie Lou Hamer, who with a less than third grade education and lots of pain and in transition and no permission, and led Black people to vote with the Freedom Democratic Party.
Right.
So we have a long history of doing things that not only help ourselves, but other people without others saying, oh, can I help you, without, with laws saying that we can't. So you can't tell me that as individuals, we can't face our own reality and face our own pain so that we can decide what's going to make us better, what our vision is, what we need to work through something, whether it's a divorce or change in job or change in your structure, your family. That is our life's work, is to be able to do that. And so if it's not us, who will it be? And that's what we really, as individuals, have to stop deferring our power, our capacity, our decision making to other people, and reclaim what we have, what God gave us ability to do, is to use our brain to make decisions, to reflect on things in the past, not to dwell in the past, but see every moment as an opportunity to create something new.
When people have mental health challenges, and we know a lot of people were diagnosed with anxiety and depression during quarantine in
Mhm.
particular, and that's just ending now for some. Uh, what and you as a psychiatrist, what do you think is needed if you really are crippled by a mental health challenge? Because I hear everything you're saying, and I mean, you've made it very clear we all have the capacity. But what if that mental health challenge is potentially crippling one so that they don't see to the point of capacity? What do you recommend for people when they're in that position?
Well, almost half of all Americans have a diagnosable mental
Oh,
condition, right? Whether it's anxiety, depression, adjustment disorder. So basically, everybody's going through something, and those numbers continue to um, increase. If you have been diagnosed, then hopefully you will get into treatment. And for some, that treatment may be talk therapy or medication therapy or working out more, but you have someone who's following you. So if you've been diagnosed, pay attention to what you need to do for yourself. My career has been spent working with individuals who have a chronic mental illness, who are addicted to drugs, who have been incarcerated. They are still trying. They try every single day to do something differently. So when I hear people saying, I just don't have it in me, or I don't know if I can, I push back, and I, use really medical terms and say, suck it up, figure it out, right? I mean, life is meant to be tough, but we're tougher. So mental health challenges or not, those are the folks I work with who struggle every day. People on the street who are homeless. It's not necessarily they're homeless because they're struggling. They're trying to make it every single day. And so I say, we have that capacity. So if somebody says they absolutely can't do it, I'd say get out of your own way or go to a professional and figure it out. And if you don't have health insurance, every city, every county has access to mental health for free. Sometimes it may be a wait, but it's there. If you're in New York City, I worked at Harlem Hospital, city hospitals have it. Find it for yourself. If you feel like you just don't know where to start, get somebody to help you.
That is powerful. And I feel like perhaps some folks watching are saying she's belaboring this point. The reason I did is because I've talked to enough people who I think you might call who are in denial, who absolutely dig in and say they can't. And you made it crystal clear. Whoever you are, you can. Whoever you are, you absolutely can, right?
And to your point, I mean, there's this notion that's probably real about the path of least resistance. Sometimes if you are in a place you don't want to be or shouldn't be, the thought of taking a step, making a change, getting rid of toxic people in your life and your household can create such a fear and anxiety that you feel like you can't do it. But those are the times that you just need to take one step and push through so that you can get to where you need to be. But if you just stay there, then you definitely are staying rooted in the past. You're staying rooted in unhappiness, and you don't have to. You really don't have to.
Did y'all hear that? You don't have to. This is about personal empowerment. That's what Dr. Janet is talking about. And with this notion of stepping into change, we have the ability to take the step. It's our self-propulsion. And sometimes we do feel like we cannot do it. And Dr. Jen is saying, but you can do it. You can do it.
It gets to be a dream leap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on the edge of a cliff, right, and there's nowhere to go, you can stay on that edge. You could jump down and, maybe you'll land and things will be better. You could jump up, maybe a bird will come and get you or whatever, or you could stay there. The point is all of those options, right? And what you need, what you want is on the other side. It's up to you. But the hope is that you will move a little bit. You will get a different insight. Maybe you need to get partners to help you. But whatever it is, take the step, take the leap, because I guarantee that what's on the other side for you will make you better. Because there is nothing about staying rooted in the past that creates any opportunity, any future changing, future learning, or gets you closer to what it is you really want.
I'd like to take a few minutes now to lead a meditation. I think this is a good time to do a cleanse for all of us. And so, Dr. Janet, I want you to participate in the meditation. So we'll take you off screen. And I'd like everyone to get comfortable. So let's start by putting your feet flat on the floor. If you can take your shoes off, please do. I want you to feel the soles of your feet grounding. Even if it's a floor, imagine that it's the earth, and really allow your feet to be rooted in the ground. And you can put your hands with your thumbs and your forefingers touching on your knees. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. And just breathe. Just breathe naturally. Just breathe. Allow yourself to be fully present in this moment. You've given yourself the gift of being here. You've already listened to Dr. Janet being pretty fiery, telling us that we have the capacity to be in control of our lives, to change what needs to change, to step into the moment. Breathe into your understanding that that is possible. You can step into the change that is before you. It's not possible to stay back anyway. The change is going to happen. So why not take the lead in your life? As we sit quietly and just breathe naturally, let's envision the life ahead. What's next? What's next for you? What are you facing? What is right before you? As you breathe, allow yourself to ask yourself, what is before me? What change is before me? Allow yourself to see it. Just breathe and listen and look. What is before you? What's bubbling up right now? What do you see? Do you see a situation, a person, a job, a relationship, your own physical being? What is showing itself to you that needs you to address it today, now? What's there? All of us have something. You might feel like, there's nothing that I'm dealing with. Ask yourself, look inside. What do you see? Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's hidden, as Dr. Janet said. And in the spirit of Dreamleapers, what is that dream inside of you that's waiting to manifest? And do you need to clear the way so that there's space for it to manifest? What do you see? Are you breathing fully? Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out long. We'll do this 3 times. One more, breathe in deep and breathe out long. One more time, breathe in deep and breathe out long. Then just breathe naturally. And as you do, allow yourself to go deeper within. What's coming up for you? What images do you see? How do you feel about what's coming up for you? Just allow whatever it is to bubble forth and then slip away. It's okay. Let the next thing come up. What do you notice? What do you want for yourself right now? What change is right there before you that you need to face and step into and be ready to continue to move forward? What is that? And continue to breathe. I'm going to share a quote with you. Continue to breathe. And here's a quote I'd like for you to contemplate. The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. Oprah Winfrey. Let me read it again. The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. Sit with that for a moment. You can change your future by changing your attitude. So what is the attitude that you're holding right now? What are you feeling right now within your being? Can you look at your life differently? Can you look at the change that you're facing with joy, with purpose, with clarity? Does it change how you feel when you change your attitude? Does it give you a sense of empowerment when you recognize that you have the capacity, you have the agency to step into whatever changes before you? All right, everyone. Just take one more breath, deep breath in and exhale. And as you feel comfortable, please open your eyes. And let's invite Dr. Janet back in.
Thank you for that. Wow.
Uh,
Awesome.
Good to be still. And, what a perfect setup, Dr. Janet, because you said it doesn't take long. You could meditate for an hour or for 3 minutes.
Yeah, we rush so much, sorry to interrupt you, and we forget about the power of stillness and the power of the breath, because it really connects you to your brain, to your gut. You have more neurons in your gut than your brain, and it's there that you can, with the breath, with the thoughts, with those meditation, peel off all those layers of just trauma, or people saying no, or negativity, to get you to your purpose, which is there. Our brain wants us to win. Our brain wants us to win. And that was a perfect meditation.
Thank you. Let's talk a little bit more about the breath. One of the things that I've noticed, and I teach public speaking and presentation, when people get nervous, I notice almost immediately they hold their breath. And sometimes for a really long time. So if you have a public speaker who's nervous standing in front of you and holding their breath, Dr. Janet, then suddenly it's like a yawn. Everybody starts holding their breath. And then, oh my gosh, it becomes this really bad thing. Why is that a natural inclination for people to hold their breath when they're nervous?
So our brain controls everything. And when faced with what could be perceived as a threat, maybe public speaking or how you're going to be perceived, we go to that fight, flight, or freeze. And so the holding of the breath is just anxiety, just pure anxiety. But again, if you're mindful and pay attention to yourself, when you notice that you're holding your breath, you can relax. So I'm sure you teach techniques that get people to cue in and just to relax. And then what you said was just interesting about how other people hold their breath. Like in our brain, we also have mirror neurons. And so when you see people doing something subconsciously in an attempt to kind of be like them, I mean, because we've made it by having people in our tribe and doing those things, we will do the same behaviors. So if you are going to speak or recognize, even if you're going to speak to your boss or your direct report, to whomever, just have a ritual that helps you relax and notice how you are doing, how you are breathing, so that you can do that. Because certainly when you're clenched and holding your breath, I mean, it impacts your thoughts and you're not as relaxed. But it's natural, because in terms of anxiety, public speaking is right up there at the top.
And I think of the recommendations that I have received over the years in a work environment, and I want to go through a bunch of examples, so to help people see themselves, that mirroring, perhaps it will help others. So, for example, Dr. Janet, when if you get upset, and I'll say at work, but it could be at work, it could be with your family, wherever it might be. But if you get upset with someone, before you send the email, before you leave the voicemail, before you open your mouth and say anything, breathe. Right? Right? And now what, so if you, because I love that you have the medical explanation for this, I'll give the example that I have and then have you speak to it. I know for me, when I've been in those situations, especially if I'm angry and I feel like I'm right. So I know people can relate to that. I'm angry. I feel like I'm right. You're wrong. You did something, and I am ready to let you have it. When I remember not to act impulsively, and I take a step back, take a breath, maybe walk around the corner, do something to calm myself down and take another look at the situation, then I'm able to engage strategy. I may still think I'm right, but I find that I have more control over myself and what I'm going to do. So I'm not stepping into muck I am strategically stepping into the moment, having thought through it. The breath helps me with that. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, 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 Timing helps me with that. Why? Why is that true?
Yeah, so that was a great example. So what you want to do when, I mean, and who doesn't want to be right? We all want to be right, but you want to take a pause. And the breath allows you to take that pause. And so as I mentioned, if you, let's say, you have a perceived slight, or you feel like someone has been unjust to you or just doesn't get it, it does create this emotion. You go to that fight, flight, or freeze place. And by taking a breath or taking a walk, or asking yourself a question, you allow yourself, your brain, to move from that place of threat and defense into, through your midbrain, which is where your emotions and your memories are, to your frontal cortex. And that, your frontal cortex, is really what organizes your ability to think strategically. Metacognition, where you can think about thinking and take a top down approach to what happened, how you were feeling, what you were thinking, and more importantly, what needs to happen next. So if you're someone who has a pattern of exploding and then having regret for what you did, pay attention to that. Instead, like, if you felt like something was unjust, it's probably right. But at the end of the day, you have to think about, what do you want to happen? So take that breath, think about the desired outcome before you send that text or hit that email or unload on someone, and try to think of a better way for you to understand them and to be understood, and most importantly, get what you want. Because anger is a natural emotion, and anger can be a cue that something needs to happen. But when you're angry, people don't hear you because they go into their own defensive mode, and all they're thinking about is their own safety and survival. And so the communication doesn't happen. So try to manage yourself so you can express how you're feeling. You can still say, like, that upset me, or when I feel like, you didn't hear me or you misunderstood that, but say it in a way that you can communicate effectively to get what you want.
Excellent. All right, here's some other examples of things that people, well, I'm going to start with myself and then give you some things that people share with me about change and how can they step into change. So with me, and we talked about this right before the broadcast began, my daughter just went away to school. She's this is her fourth week, and we have one child. So like, she's gone. On the one hand, I feel completely at ease about her being at school
Mhm.
because we did our job to get her ready. She is fully herself, as much as one would ever expect for her to be off in this next step. But it doesn't make it easy that my baby's gone. Life is different for my husband and me because this human being who we took care of for 18 years is gone. And I don't even know what change I'm stepping into, quite frankly. It's just
Mhm.
different. I
Mhm.
know that there are many people who are sharing this experience where they're it's a natural rite of passage. Your child is supposed to be ready to go. The change for the parent is, I don't even know. I love you. You have four beautiful daughters who are grown. Um, what advice do you have to give to me and others like me who are in this moment of transition? And really, I'm not quite sure where I step.
Well, thank you for saying my girls are beautiful. I love my daughters. And here's the thing: as a parent, we never stop being concerned and worrying about
That's
your
right.
children. I mean, my girls are in their 30s, working, and I think about their safety every single day.
Yeah.
To your point, I also know I raised them. I communicate with them regularly, and know if something was going on, that they would talk to me about it. I also know, having raised them and they've gone to college, they come back, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, when are you leaving again? But but the reality is, it's not just a change in terms of your daughter being gone. It's a change in terms of your relationship with your husband, your relationship with yourself, and those kind of things make you think about, what do I need? And that can, what do I want to do next? And that can create some anxiety. So I say, settle in, focus on yourself in terms of self-care, getting sleep, working out, doing those things that you like to do, and what the direction that you need to go. will appear, and you will do it, hopefully. And also think like spend 30 minutes thinking about making a list of everything you want to do, pick the top three, and then focus on one. Learn something new, re-engage with your friends, whatever it is, so that you can fulfill your own life. Because we can't go back to the past where, it's routine, and, taking care of your children and seeing them grow and blossom is one of life's joys. But we can't hold on to that. Now it's your time again. And so having an attitude of gratitude that you're in a
Mhm.
position, A, to get your daughter off, and your relationship with your husband and yourself is there, but use this time to explore, realizing you have decades of life left, even though I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, because there's no one, I think, who is more capable of figuring out everything that they need to do and want to do than you, Harriet, because you
Well,
do it. But
it's easy to tell other people.
but I mean, you epitomize
Mm.
just how to create, and be creative and be of value, all of those things that will help us as we get older. But the key thing is to really certainly recognize the loss that you feel, but not dwell on it. And then
Mhm.
think about the opportunities for yourself to have a different relationship with her. Because this is, one of the beauties of having my girls is, I get to have conversations with them as adults, and
Mm.
learn from them, as much as we feel like we pour into them. So it's a different relationship. It's a new one, but one that can be looked at, as one of exploration and certainly continued growth.
I am currently in Maryland, where I'm from, because I came to see my mom. My younger sister, who lives here, is the one who's primarily engaged with her whenever there are any challenges. And she was out of the country, so I came to help.
Mhm.
And this is another part of change of life that, for those of us blessed to have our parents still, when they're older, there are often tremendous challenges that you face. And it may not just be parents. I have other friends whose spouses are in a tender form, whether it is uh, memory loss or physical decline. When loved ones are dealing with health challenges, it can be incredibly taxing on those who feel that they have the responsibility to come in and be a caretaker in one way or another. And Dr. Janet, many caretakers end up getting sick because they don't take care of themselves. They're just caring for the other person. I've seen so many people take care of a sick parent or spouse, and right after the person dies, they get sick.
Mhm.
So, how can we navigate these kinds of changes when we have someone ill, uh, who for whom we have responsibility, and take care of ourselves at the same time?
Yeah, no, it's so true. My father lived with me for 2 years, and now he lives an independent living. So, um, you're right. So many people are in that sandwich generation, taking care of elderly parents, maybe even your children and partners. The number one thing is to realize it's stressful. It takes a toll on you. And as much as you can take care of your loved one, you have to also remember to take care of yourself, making your own, if you have doctor's appointments, making those, if you have chronic illness yourself, making sure you take your medication. And also, for black people in general, we have the highest rates of being unpaid caregivers. And
Yeah.
so what does that mean? That means, sometimes we're working all day and then coming home and taking care of other people, or just the stress of all of that. So the key is to ask for help if you need it. If you're a sibling, and check on your siblings who are taking care of your parents or other people, and see if they need a break, and to really recognize that. At the same time, as Black people, we have the highest rates of reporting that we get satisfaction from taking care of people, but
Mm.
it's a fine line. So you have to, again, it comes back to yourself, reflect on how you are doing. If it is stressful, there should be no shame in raising your hand and saying, this is hard, I need help. And sometimes that help may come from other family members, but it also may mean that you may need to ask an agency, or whoever you're taking care of, their doctor, to see what you can do to get referred for at-home help, or even respite on the weekend. But caregivers are under a lot of stress, and
Yeah.
recognize it. And your number one priority certainly is your loved one, but you can have two number ones, and the other one has to be yourself. Take a break, get enough sleep, go for a walk while you can, exercise, and just pay attention to how you are doing.
I think about another challenge that it's always around, but in this uncertain time of our economy that in part was prompted by the pandemic, but continues, and there's a question as to whether we're going to have a recession. Look, this is cyclical. The pandemic was extra extreme, but it is cyclical. During times like this, people lose their jobs, they get downsized, there's a whole crop of young people who just finished college and there are no jobs for them. The pressure of not having the resources that you need in order to survive is very, very real. I've talked to a number of families who have shared when one of the breadwinners in the household, or if there is only one, they lose income, it creates an incredible amount of stress, and a lot of change needs to happen, but people feel incapable once again of making that change. How do you adjust your mindset when you're facing what could be financial hardship?
Yeah, I mean, it's a reality, and there still are resources if you may have trouble with your mortgage or student debt and all those things. But what you have to do is look at hard, honest truths, right? And so sometimes what happens in families is the breadwinner may have lost their job, and it may take months before they tell their partner, and then
Mm.
these debts have accumulated. So our brain does not like uncertainty, and it's better to be faced with something that's difficult, faced with something that's hard to hear, and then you deal with it than to hide things. And when we're faced with uncertainty, our brain, in an erroneous way to make us feel better, will take us on this roller coaster ride of worst case scenarios.
Mm.
Open bills, tell people the truth, go to your doctor's visits, face your student debt. If you have to downsize or, even go into bankruptcy, foreclosure, whatever it is, face it. And you will be less stressed because you are dealing with facts and dealing with the truth. But there still is help out there. But so often, because of embarrassment, because of shame, we miss some resources. So if you're in financial trouble, having issues mentally, physically, drop everything and find people who can help you. Don't be afraid to say, I need help figuring this out. I need a direction. I need a plan, because there are governmental agencies, there are county agencies, there are case managers, there are people who can help you restructure things, get the assistance that you need. But because there's so much of it, help people who do need help, you literally have to raise your hand and say, like, I'm in trouble.
Okay, Dr. Janet, I'm pushing again because I feel the questions. And also, I know people who are so proud that they just can't even imagine that they would raise their hand and say, I need help. That they don't open the bills, they do hide,
Mhm.
even though you just said the uncertainty is more difficult to manage than whatever the reality is. There are plenty of people who would go to their grave rather than admit,
Mhm.
I don't have enough money to eat. I haven't filed my taxes. I don't, I'm going to lose my house. Real serious
Mhm.
challenges. And there are people who just are paralyzed.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of it has to do with ego and pride. To those people, what do you say?
Take a breath, write down what your challenges are, and be determined to get help for it. Be determined to say, to find one person that you can tell and ask for help. And if that person
Mhm.
says they can't help you, and I'm not talking about asking for a loan, I'm talking about resources. Even though if you have someone maybe who can get you out of that, ask them. If that person says no, then you go to the next one until you get a yes. But help is out there. And the worst feeling in the world is for you to be literally drowning, and then you find that person, they're like, why didn't you tell me? or you
Mm-hmm.
find that person, they say, I went through the same thing. Here's what you need to do. But silence can be deadly. And this is not a time to be silent. Research it on, Google, or, make some calls. But I'm telling you, help is there for financial help, for student debt help, for mental help, for if, physical help. If you are uninsured or don't have insurance or have no resources, but you have to make an effort to find it. But tell someone.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about physical health for a minute. And I think of some people, and we can speak for a moment about the Black community. This is not, our audience is more than the Black community, but just for a moment, that, there are a bunch of diseases that are so called common for Black people to get. And back to pride again. Well, if you have one of these diseases, but you don't want anybody to know because you're not that person, and I'm going to venture to say that beyond the Black community, people have those same prideful moments. So I can't have that, and therefore I'm not going to get treated for that because I'm healthy, or I will get my nails done, but I won't exercise because I have to be cute, or these things that occur within the mind when we don't face whatever's going on with our physical health. How can we untangle that in order to get to what is probably just simply a space of honesty with ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's honesty, and it's just, how do you want to live, right? I mean, the whole point of working hard and hopefully getting to retirement is not so that you're retired and have all these chronic diseases. And so how you want to age successfully begins now, whatever age you are. And there's no substitute for getting blood flow through to your brain and through your body. Our brain is our biggest ally. It's 3% of our body weight and utilizes 25% of our blood glucose and oxygen. So when we are exercising to get blood flow to your brain so you can make those decisions, those great decisions about transition and dreams and vision and what you want, right? You want to maximize the use of your brain. And one of the biggest risk factors for dementia is hypertension and having high cholesterol, those things that can occlude the vessels in your brain. So think about how you want to live and how you want to age, certainly, but also understand that prevention is everything. Diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol. If you have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, those are things that you can help by changing your diet, by exercising. And certainly, if you need medication, you need it. Prevention, we know that chronic stress really wreaks havoc on our immune system. And it's our immune system that can trigger cells to change in terms of be precancerous and lead to autoimmune disorder. So managing your stress certainly is a huge risk factor, and not to minimize the stress that comes from racism or sexism, or if who you love, and if you're trans, or whatever your orientation or identification is. Those are all stressful things that you can't necessarily control in terms of how people feel on the outside of you, but you can manage how it gets into your own system. And so many times you have to be Teflon, and literally, when things are coming at you that don't serve you, that make you feel worse, like literally shutting them out and only paying attention to what makes you better. So taking care of yourself, being as physically healthy as you can, knowing your numbers, blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, HIV, anything that's also treatable, hep C, all of those addictions, like, make it your mission to inform yourself, to know your numbers, to get regular doctor's appointments, and no matter what your situation has been, to change it now so that you can maximize your life and really truly, and I know it sounds like a cliche, but really truly get the most out of the life that you have, and really be determined to just push and push to your potential.
You mentioned stress. I think it's worth digging a little deeper there because there's stress everywhere. I feel like most people bear a tremendous load of stress. And we just did a meditation. We know that can help relieve stress. And I know that a lot of people really don't understand, how do you get rid of stress? How do you keep stress at bay? You just described all these things that can be exacerbated by stress, but how do you have less stress in your life?
Well, first, it's important to understand stress is just a word. You have to understand how stress manifests in you. Like, where do you feel it in your body? Does your heart beat faster? Your hands get sweaty? Your stomach knots? All of those cues that some people, because they're so chronically stressed, they don't even recognize what it's like to not be stressed. So recognize when you feel it. When you feel it, take a breath, literally go from head to toe, trying to relax parts of your body. So stress, there's a eustress, a positive stress that helps get you up, maybe gets the kids out, gets you to work on the computer, whatever it is. And when you get to that place, you go back into recovery. That's positive stress. That's a good stress. And then there's a tolerable stress. You could be in a relationship conflict, something at work, something's going on that really just you feel stressed all over, but you use your voice, you use whatever techniques you have, and you get back to recovery. What's killing us is that toxic stress, that relentless, just 24/7, where your brain is sending cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline to every organ in your body, either to turn on or turn off. That fight, flight, and freeze is in full effect, which means you're constantly feeling your body is saying, I'm in the heat of battle. So when you're in the heat of battle, you need energy. So you're releasing blood glucose and cholesterol, lipids into your bloodstream for energy, get more anxious, depressed, your heart rate goes up. You release fibrinogen, which makes your blood clot, which can lead to heart attacks. So and the last thing you're thinking about in the heat of battle is reproducing. So you have less testosterone and estrogen. So
Mhm.
in reality, if you have any chronic medical illness, you can certainly worsen it, and then your immune system's out of work, out of whack. So if you have, let's say, cancers or precancerous, I mean, all of those things can stimulate ways that your cells work that are not for you. And so we have to learn to get our bodies back into recovery, knowing that life is stressful. If you are fully participating in life, you're going to have stress, but it is about finding those times where you can just relax, when you can would sleep well, right? When you can mindfully eat, when you can exercise. And so the difference is, it's your mindset. There's some people have a fixed mindset, what's the point? Nothing's ever going to change for me. This always happens to me, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
But it's really important that you have a growth mindset or a resilience mindset, knowing that our bodies, our brains were really meant for challenging times because we can
Mhm.
adapt and we can become resilient. And so it's not that you have to endure suffering. It's not that you have to invite suffering, but know that we can handle most of these things that happen to us. And so the key is how you look at stressful situations. Do you look at something that's done to you or for you? Do you
Mhm.
reflect on situations where were difficult and see what you learned from them? Can you take, criticism or feedback as something that's constructive and integral to your growing versus, holding on to it? And so it's a combined effort. From a body perspective, we have to find ways for our body to recover, and that's certainly sleep, eating well, exercising. And then mentally, we have to get tougher and really be able to filter out what we hold on to or what we don't, what we choose to engage with and what we don't. And then knowing how we feel when we're stressed and what we need to do in a healthy way to cope, to make ourselves feel better. And unhealthy ways are certainly coming home and drinking a bottle of wine or, using drugs. No judgment, but it doesn't help, right? Some of us cope by overeating or undereating or activities, sexually acting out, all those things. Again, no judgment, but if it's not serving you and it doesn't change whatever issue is causing you stress, then you have to look at that. And then if you need to, ultimately talk to a therapist, talk to your primary care doctor, talk to a coach, talk to somebody and figure out a way to navigate, this journey of life, which, when you feel like you understand it all, the universe like nudges you and says, nope, nope, nope,
That's
nope, right?
right.
And it stops you, right? And then you get to a point that we're talking about where you have to make a change. You have to make a transition. And so what you do is you hold on or need to know your vision and your values. And you look at, your desire to change. You think about first steps. And that has to be greater than any resistance keeping you in a place that you don't want to be. and then you can make a change. But it's having a vision, it's small steps, but recognizing that you deserve anything that you want. But it's not easy. It doesn't come without some cost or challenges, but we are built for these times and we are built to overcome them.
My sister says something often that she will let no one steal her joy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think about Oprah Winfrey's quote about attitude. It's so important. You mentioned we kind of need to be like Teflon. Let things, don't take everything personally. Let things just roll off our back sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
How do we access joy? Different from a happy moment, but that deep down sense of contentment and joy that can sustain us, can make us strong, that can help us to be resilient. How do we access that?
Mm-hmm. Well, number one, we have to distinguish joy from happiness, right? And
Right.
so, happiness can happen. Somebody gives you a gift, or wishes you something, or you do something, and you have this state of happiness. But joy can really come from times that are difficult. It doesn't mean that you have to be doing something that's off the charts great. And so, recognizing A, when you feel it, and B, wanting it. But the thing that really I think distinguishes joy from just being a word is the fact that an attitude is key, but the behaviors that happen afterwards are even more key. And so I think when you come from a place where you have that inner sense of well-being and an inner sense of gratitude, and really make a choice to look at situations from a joyful lens, and in the sense of feeling resilient, feeling like your sister said, my mom used to say the same thing, like, no one's going to steal my joy, means that when you face challenges, you still have a light on. When you
Yes.
face things that are great, you still have a light. And so that light is there all of the time. And that joy is not letting anything or anybody put that light out. Now, can they cover it, or, knowing we're not 100% happy or joyful all the time, but it's still there. And the reality is it is. As long as you have a breath, then you have that capacity to find joy. And the way our society is now, where we are inundated with bad news, we are inundated with people being stressed, and random shootings, and just all of these things that just it's hard to figure out. It becomes even more imperative for us to have our own sense of well-being, our own sense of joy, our own sense of belonging, that still integrates whatever our life was like, whatever track that was, whatever happened to you, but that you have that capacity, and that light is always there. And that's frankly how we have survived and continue to thrive, is by just not extinguishing that and not allowing anyone to.
One of the meditations that I often lead is breathing in light. And it's so powerful. I want to just share with everyone, because we're coming to a close in a few minutes, but let's take 3 minutes and do 3 or 4 minutes and do this breathing meditation. I think it's worth it. Rather than me just telling you, let's just do it. So let's have everybody stick with us. We have a few more minutes left. Let's close out with a meditation on light. All right, so get back into that comfortable posture. You can put your feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes, please, and just breathe in. And this time, as you breathe in, literally breathe in light. And hold your breath at the top, and then slowly let it out. And as you exhale, exhale light. Again, breathe in deep. Breathe in light. Hold it and exhale light. One more deep breath. Breathe in deep. Literally, I want you to see light as you're breathing it in. Hold it and then exhale light. And now just breathe naturally, or maybe a little bit more deeply than you normally do, because a lot of us breathe very shallowly. With each in-breath, envision light, that you're bringing light into your physical body. And anywhere in your body that feels tense, breathe light into that part of your body. So for me, it's off of my shoulders. Breathe light into the shoulders and exhale light out. So you're bathing your inner being with light and all surrounding your body with light. Breathe in light, exhale light. Where is your body uncomfortable? Feel the light moving through your body. Light creates space. Bring space into your body by offering light to any part of your body that is not at ease. From the tip of your toes to your calves, to your knees, to your thighs, to your belly. Breathe into your belly. Stay on your belly for a moment. Breathe in and out and really allow yourself to breathe light into your belly. Breathe more fully into your lungs. Breathe light into your lungs and exhale light from your lungs. Breathe light into your heart. Tender, loving light into your heart. And exhale light from your heart. Breathe light into your throat. Your precious voice resides there. Breathe light in and out. Breathe light into your brain. Remember Dr. Janet telling us how precious our brain is and how important it is for us to make sure that the breath goes right there to our brains. Breathe light into your brain. And as you breathe light in and out, literally, I want you to see it. Like right now, because I'm saying this, I see a shimmering light with my eyes closed right over my eyes. I feel the light and I see the light. I also feel that light in my hands. Where do you feel it? Breathe in the light of potential. Breathe out the light of forgiveness. Breathe in the light of resilience. Breathe out the light of fearfulness. Breathe in the light of acceptance. Breathe out the light of tension. Recognize that light surrounds you within and without. Give yourself permission and strength to breathe into the change that is before you so that you can step into that change with full awareness, with full confidence, with full agency. Breathe. 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 Whatever you're feeling, allow yourself to feel it. If you feel tears, let them flow. If you feel joy, wear that inner smile. Just be. And very gently, everyone, please open your eyes. Let's welcome Dr. Janet back for just a few more minutes together. How are you, Dr. Janet?
Oh, I'm thankful for that gift. Wow.
The breath.
It is a breath, but also a reminder that even in the darkness, there's light.
Yes.
And just by closing your eyes and inviting it in, the space of light is so powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Janet, we so appreciate you being here. Breaking stuff down. It's one thing I've been holding this energy for a long time and sharing and teaching for many, many years. And it works. I know that. But it's a different thing when you have somebody from a medical background who can say, Harry's not making this up, y'all. This is real. It's real. So we so appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that energy that you hold and share, it can change our brain. It changes our brain. Regular meditation changes our brain. So your thoughts change your brain. So keep doing the work you're doing, Harriet. We need it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Janet Taylor. We appreciate you. I always love when you join me to share love and light with others. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, everyone who's joined us here for this Dreamleapers Now live presentation. We are now hosting these events about once a month in the evening so that folks can get together with us. Please know that every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on my Harriet Cole Media Facebook page, I host what's called Dreamleapers Inspiration, a half hour that includes a meditation and contemplation of a quote that can get us going during the week. Every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on WBAI Radio, which is WBAI.org for anyone, I host an interview called Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole, where I talk to folk who help to inspire us to be our greatest selves. I also coach people one-on-one, and I'm happy to support you in whatever way you need. You can visit our website, harrietcole.com, sign up for engagements that we have on a regular basis. All of this work I do to help all of us leap into our dreams. And, we need inspiration again and again so that we stay in the light. So, again, thank you to Dr. Taylor. Thank you to all of you for being here with us today. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.